Good afternoon. My name is Jim Conlan, and welcome to this episode of our entertainment show. As you know, in part three of our entertainment show, each week we premiere a new movie or TV series that is debuting here in Ireland and the UK, and especially here in Ireland where Irish eyes are smiling. And what can we say about this TV series? Many people thought it might a spin-off of Big Bang Theory. It might last one season, maybe it might last two seasons or three at most, and then it will come to its inevitable sort of conclusion. No, it's tore up the scratchbook. It's put the theorists in their place. It's gone on for 4, 5, and now even sort of 6 seasons, and it's even developed its own fan base, totally separate from its father figure show. It's called Young Sheldon, as we know. It's debuting here on Channel E4, season 6, featuring an all-star cast that includes Ian Armitage, Zoe Perry, Lance Barber, Montana Jordan, Raegan Revord, Wallace Shawn, Craig T. Nelson, Emily Osmond, and our special guest this evening. You might remember he appeared all in the beginning in season 1, and he's here now in season 6 again. He plays the character Coach Wayne Wilson. He's Sheldon Cooper's PE teacher and head of the coach of the football team as well in Melford High. Doc, to be involved in a series that started maybe 6-7 years ago in season 1, and now to find yourself still playing that recurring role, maybe in season 6, all these sorts of seasons later. Did you think in your wildest dreams when you got involved in this project with Chuck Lorre came to you and said, listen, we might have a role for you here, Doc Farrow and Young Sheldon, that you might be coming back season after season after season and getting to play this character?
No. That's the short answer. When I went in for the pilot, when you go in for a pilot of a show, then there's always the possibility of it being a recurring character or being bumped up. And this was the first pilot that I ever booked. So it was blessings from the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of the character and Chuck Lorre, when you did the pilot, when you did the production, what did they say that they wanted you to portray this Way Wilkins in terms of his sort of description? What sort of ideas did you give him? Was he a hardline, totalitarian type football coach, PE guy that was sort of a hard ass, or was he sort of mellow type character? What was basically on the script in terms of the sort of characteristics that you to go by in terms of bringing his vision to life?
Well, he's written well. Coach Wilkins has written well, and the pilot I did not have a whole lot to move with, so I just kind of brought what I figured Coach Wilkins was at that moment, and then Chuck Lorre and Steve Malero, that they're such great creators, and getting on set and starting to really play with the character a little bit. I kind of just found my own thing, and they, ran me in a different direction. They ran me in the same direction, and it all kind of comes together and goes forward. For me, Coach Wilkins is a large part my father, a large part my grandfather, who hit several points for Coach Wilkins. Coach, Vietnam veteran, nice guy, also can be something else too. So there was a lot of things that were hit that I brought in, and it's a collaboration. So it was they started writing towards me what I was bringing in, and I started lifting up to where they wanted, and it just starts to come together. Yeah.
And Doc, in terms of that relationship with an 8 or 9-year-old boy when he started out, even a bit younger than that, I think Ian Armitage was a bit younger than 8 or 9 when he sort of started off, and to develop that sort of bond as he grows through the years, you still stay the same, you still look the same from season 1. He's a different animal now in terms of season 1 to season 6. How is that sort of like to sort of keep that sort of in character, to sort of keep that relationship in check?
Well, it's interesting because I showed up to set in season 5, and all of a sudden I'm talking to this tall grown-ass man. His voice had dropped, he was taller, and I'm like, this is the same kid, right? But that's that ended up season 4, season 5 was when his voice started to drop, and he was really getting filling out into who he was. But for the characters between Sheldon and Coach Wilkins, I don't have a lot of I'm not in scenes with him a lot. There's only a couple of things that I've done since that first season where we were kind of establishing who he was in this world and who I was to the family and to him. And since then, it's been predominantly Lance Barber and Rex Lynn, who are amazing people to work with. But as far as him as an individual, a human being, he's an amazing kid. He's very, very intelligent. He's a kid, and an amazing kid at that. It's fun showing up on set, and he's very nice and kind and greets everyone, and is learning several different languages. It's really fun to watch him grow as a human being.
And I suppose, Doc, you mentioned the name there, Rex Lane. We had Rex Lane on 2 days ago as well to premiere this. So tell me, in terms of your relationship with your character's relationship with Rex's character, is it the football coach has to answer to the principal, or how does this sort of work around?
So what is Rex and Lance and I talked about, whenever we're in a scene together, we talk about the relationship, we talk about each other as far as our characters are concerned. And what we kind of have come up with is that Lance is always kind of in trouble with something or another. Rex, Coach Peterson is always kind of balancing the friendship and the stability and the relationship between him being a principal and his boss, and him making sure everything is okay, and at the same time dealing with his own crazy stuff, where I have been kind of the stable one up until no spoiler alerts, but this season gets a little rough for Coach Wilkins. But I've been kind of the stable one, who is the one giving all of the advice to people as far as calm down, move through, this is what you should try, it's not that big of a deal. So I believe that all of us tend to revolve around Lance's or George, and kind of create a homeostasis for his life, because it's, his life is very tumultuous. But that seems to be what we've been what has been coming out with what we worked on.
And Doc, obviously playing a recurring role, obviously there's times when you book projects and you're a recognized comedian all over the States and growing globally as well. So in terms of that, when you have sort of projects on and Chuck Lorre and his production team come to you and say, listen, Doc, we might need you for 2 or 3 episodes. And has there been ever a time when sort of things have clashed for you, where you have to say, to go back to Chuck and say, Chuck, maybe if you can come back next month, if you could push those episodes further down the line, that I'd be ready? Or is it everything sort of fitted perfectly into place for you?
It has, and so with Young Sheldon, it's my recurring role, and there's kind of a hierarchy as far as projects are concerned. And when it comes to other projects, if I'm doing a Young Sheldon, then the other projects I'm already moving towards that. And it's kind of the family that I've been working with for the last 6 years. There has been times where I've gone to go do stand-up comedy in other places, and then they're like, hey, we want you for this episode. I'm like, I can't go to that city, I can't go travel. And it's fine, because this is where my recurring is. I genuinely I'm sorry, this is funny to me. I genuinely walk around with a bald head. I usually shave my head because I like to, I just don't like dealing with my hair only so much. And I usually call casting a couple and like, hey, am I coming in the next couple of weeks? Am I coming in the next couple of weeks? And say, no. So go ahead and shave my head, because I have to grow it out for the character. And in season 3, I remember calling and checking, and they were like, no, you'll be fine. And I shave it, and literally 2 days later, we're like, hey, we've got an episode we want you to be in. So, but I still had time to grow it out. It was just, yeah. But other than that, no, I haven't had a whole lot of clashes as of yet. But those are good problems to have.
There's a good problems to have.
Yeah.
And Doc, in terms of the recurring cast role, obviously we have the main family, we've Montana, Raegan, Ian, Lance, and Zoe, the ever sort of presence. But the sort of family, the community that has been built around Young Sheldon in terms of all of you, the rest of you as recurring actors as well, in terms of forming that bond. How important and critical do you see your roles within Young Sheldon in terms of making that sort of fictional place, that fictional life of the family come together outside of the home in terms of that?
Yeah, I think that, and again, this is something that Lance and I have talked about since for the last 3 or 4 seasons. Most of the scenes that I do are with him. You know, Young Sheldon and the family, the core family, they need to have something, and they do have something that shows George, the character George, to see who he is when it's not just his family, and also to be redirected when he needs to. And I think that's the biggest purpose of Wayne Wilkins. He's his friend, he's his employee, and push comes to shove, I'm his employee. But at the same time, we also, both of us were Vietnam veterans, and Lance and I have talked about this as well. And I show a side of George. I've been talking to Lance so much that I keep forgetting that his character's name is George. We've been talking about this, but I am the one that redirects him. I'm the one that gives an idea of who he is and who he can be outside of the family, that extra relationship, and in dealing with his whole family, let alone Young Sheldon, when it comes to dealing with how to be a father and how to be a good husband, especially. I'm the one that's usually redirecting him, and whether he takes my advice or doesn't, whether it goes right or wrong, is immaterial. I'm the outlet to show that character a difference in just a different relationship for his family. And since this is a prequel, it's going to end up in a certain place that, you know, begins the Big Bang Theory, or before the Big Bang Theory starts. His father, Young Sheldon's father, George, was such a big part of Young Sheldon's, you know, development in life, that I get a chance to be a part of that and showing them who he is and who he is to Sheldon. Yeah. And
Doc, I got to ask you about your NFL lingo, your football terminology. Are you very sort of well versed in that, or did you have to do a bit of research? Were you watching the Steelers or the Packers or something when you landed this role to get your headset in place and get the sort of get the justice? Because high school football is a massive thing in the United States.
It's really big in Texas. And I'm going to say this, I'm from Baltimore. So saying things like the Packers and the Steelers, how dare you? I will not accept that. I'm going to forgive you for a minute, but no, I'm from Baltimore, and I played football very little. I played for a couple of years. Baseball was my sport. However, my father was a football coach. My father played for University of Maryland and almost played pro. But
second nature to you, so.
Yeah. And he was bigger than I was. I didn't have the love for football as my dad did, but I did love the sport, just not as much as him. So there's that. There is a small background of not only just playing, but coaching. And then you just kind of plug in for the time frame. And luckily, the time frame of the show was right around the time I grew up. I started watching sports a little bit later, as far as avidly following sports. But there's, you know, you pick up this and you remember this and kind of put it together, and yeah.
So in terms of acting, obviously as actors, you love the sort of interaction and voice sort of character roles, but in terms of improv and in terms of acting like football coaches and acting as emotions on the field, getting excited, getting angry, sort of frustration, what's that sort of like in terms of, is that actually harder to do rather than doing an intense one-to-one scene, in terms of being able to imagine yourself strolling down a touchline, giving sort of instructions and sort of something like that? Or do you think, right, I'm going to imagine like it's a real life situation, that this is exactly what I'm doing?
Well, the bottom line for acting is that it's all imaginative, imagination, concentration, and relaxation. That's the textbook 101 acting statement. But it's a collaboration. Again, it's a collaboration, and we talk constantly about how we're going to do the scene. I know that first scene that we had on the football field, the director had to back me down because don't be so angry, just playful. You're building the environment that you're in. You're on the football field. You are you're in this scene. We know what the scene is about. We're talking back and forth about how to do it. And most of the director and Steve Malero, who is there most of the time, and Chuck pops in a lot. They're talking about it, and they let us run. They let us, play with it, and it is building relationships and building the environment and the circumstances that you're in that's fun to play with and gets you alive. And I'm not gonna, I'm not really yelling at a football player for doing something stupid, but I am, because I'm putting the stakes in. I mean, it's playing. We're playing, and it's fun to play. Yeah.
Doc, before we came on air, you mentioned about some of your comedian shows, your comedy shows coming up throughout the United States. And I'm just curious, in terms of viewers and listeners that want to go online, might want to go onto YouTube, Twitter, other avenues to learn a bit more about Doc Farrow's the comedian. What sort of material, Doc, do you sort of specify in? Are you talking about real life, day-to-day situations, or situations around your own life, or what's the sort of type of comedy genre that you sort of really focus on?
Well, first remember that Doc Farrow is not Coach Wilkins, so you're going to see a lot more sides to Doc Farrow to Coach Wilkins. So brace yourself. Two, I focus a lot on relationships. Military is what I spent 6.5 years in the military, and so a lot of my material stems from that in my time in the military. Relationships, drugs, and alcohol, because I have a history with alcohol that I've stopped doing now. And then recently, as I'm changing, it's just been observational of what has been happening now. I tend to poke fun and hold in reverence the United States military as well as everybody else. So yeah.
So I take it by that, Doc, you like the old sort of the military thing. Do you go a bit government? Do you go a bit Republican, conservative, or do you tend to try and stay out of the whole politician sort of thing?
I don't mess with politics unless I see something that is strikingly ironic on both sides. I'm very apolitical when it comes to either one of them. I think they both are wonderful and crazy at the same time. So I stay out of that. I think I can't remember who said it, but Seth MacFarlane actually said it. He says, I'm the one pointing at the toilet paper on his shoe when Superman comes and saves the day. And that's me. I don't know who's saving the day. I don't know who's right or who's wrong, but I'm going to make fun of it somehow. So.
And Doc, I know obviously you're a renowned comedian and you're involved in Young Sheldon, that's comedy sort of roles. But in terms of acting, is comedy your main sort of genre? Would you like to be involved in a horror movie or a scare movie or a serious movie? Are you open to all different types of genres or teams, or do you feel you have a niche or a special comatose towards comedy?
I think naturally I move towards comedy, but I am 100% ready to do everything else. I've written things that are dramas. I tend to write towards dramas. I tend to think dramatically, and then it just comes out funny. I would love to do kind of action thriller. I'm not real big into horror genre as me wanting to do it, But if it's suspense thriller and it's, you know, it's got gory or even the supernatural, I would absolutely love to do it. I'm open to everything. I would love to do everything. But comedy seems to be where I naturally move towards. Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose, Doc, before we came on air, you mentioned all the shows that you're doing around the United States at the moment. Has there ever been a dream to take a bit of a road show to UK, to Ireland, to bring your gigs to a different sort of clientele, a different sort of audience, and see how a different part of the world might engage in terms of humor? Because I've noticed there in the last few years or so, we've had Jeff Foxworthy come our way. We've had Bill Engvall, and they would have been classified as that type of redneck comedy, and that would be their audience. But they're bringing that now to a sort of global stage, and it's really caught on in terms of, because it's something new for different audiences around the world, in terms of, because they can find fun at something that is a million miles away from them in terms of that, because there's no sort of redneck, so it doesn't sort of clash, or they don't find it irritating or derogatory or something like that. Would that something appeal to you, to take your sort of roadshow and maybe bring knowledge about the US military to Ireland, to England, to places like that, who would have feel a lighter sort of touch? It wouldn't be so sensitive or to hear in terms of that, because we'd have no sort of connections or resonance to it.
So first of all, absolutely. I absolutely would love to. You know, comedy or stand-up at least is really about communicating, and or a piece of it is communicating. And I can communicate my ideas that make sense to me and make sense to most of the United States, or the United States would understand what I'm saying. But to bridge that gap to the rest of the world, I care less who I'm making laugh. I just want to make people laugh, and the more the better. I have a friend who's touring right now in Europe. He's been over in Europe for at least a couple of years, Joel Bryant, and he's an amazing comedian. I would absolutely love to go to Ireland, and I have friends over there, so I'm going to be sleeping on couches, and absolutely, if I can get over there, absolutely. You talk to some people and put together some shows.
Yeah, we'll try and make something work, Doc, if at all possible. Doc Farrow, for the final 30 seconds, you played the character Wayne Wilkins on Young Sheldon. You might enlighten all our audience, or all our listeners, or all our viewers, why they should tune in to season 6 of Young Sheldon on Channel E4, and what's in store for them, Doc Farrow?
Oh, craziness. Well, I'm not going to spoil anything, but the end of season 5, it starts to run again. The way that season 5 ends, it picks right up and starts moving really fast. So there's a lot of, Coach Wilkins has some things he's got to deal with that are on the brink of disaster for him, and the family dynamic it's fun. You should tune in, because if you've been watching it so far, it really picks up speed and starts really running in some interesting directions. It's also just it's a good show. It's a great show. It's not just, you know, I've noticed that it's not kids that are coming up to say hi, even though kids watch it. I have full-grown adults who are spotting me across the country, and it's a really great show. It's a fun show, and I enjoy working on it. Lots of people love to watch it, and you should watch it, because
On that note, yes, you're there indeed. And anyone that wants to catch more of Doc Farrow's and his sort of material, do go online. Doc, I imagine you have a website in terms of where people can sort of see a bit of your content outside of YouTube and sort of other areas, if they want to find out a bit more about the comedian Doc Farrow's.
Yeah, docfarrow.com. I need to do some brushing up on my website, but I do have material on there, and all branches of what it is that I do are on there. And for social media, JDOCFARROW, or just Google Doc Farrow, you'll find me. Come hang out. I'll let you know when I'm in the next city. Well, I'll let you know when I'm in Ireland.
Do indeed. I'll have a front row seats and I hope a VIP package as well, Doc.
Oh, I got you. I got you.
Doc Farrows, for me, Jim Conlan, speaking to you on the airways, stay safe, take care, God bless, enjoy the comedian shows, and we'll see you back for season 12 of Young Sheldon in a few years' time.
I like
Okay.
that.
Doc Farrows, stay safe, take care, and God bless, sir.
You too. Thank you.